Noswaith dda pawb, good evening.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our capital redevelopment update session. I'm Liam Evans-Ford. I'm Executive Director at Theatre Clwyd.
I'm Tamara Harvey. I'm Artistic Director. And before we go any further, I just need to make an apology in advance. There are two small children about to head to a bath, and one of them is pretending to be a dinosaur. So if any strange noises happen, that's what that is.
I mean, that said, we are from Theatre Clwyd, so anything could happen. It's a madcap place as it is. Diolch yn fawr for joining us this evening. We just wanted to give you a bit of an update on our capital redevelopment programme. We did a lot of consultation. Many of you might have joined us previously in 2019, but things have moved on a lot. But we thought we'd just give you a bit of a reminder of who we are as an organisation. So I'll start off with some figures and then tomorrow I'll talk about more interesting things. So we, in a normal year, talk about normal years, of course, this has not been a normal year. We have an annual turnover of around about £7 million. The majority of which is generated through ticket sales, box office, and secondary income, bars, cafes, etc. We're the third biggest client of Arts Council of Wales, the only one outside of Cardiff. And we've just had a reminder from Sam, our head of marketing, who runs all of this, just saying, if you have questions, there's something at the bottom of your screen, you can type it in there. As they come through, we'll either answer them as we go or we'll have time for questions at the end. So thank you, Sam, for the prompt, our silent friend in the background. We employ around about 100 core employees. We usually have around, and I say usually because we haven't had this work available, but usually around about 40 to 50 regular relief and casual workers each year, and then another 300 freelancers each year. And actually, even during this last year, we've been able to employ 300 creative freelancers. It's worth also saying that there was an economic impact study done on our work, and in addition to the £7 million we generate internally, we generate another £9 million or more a year in the local North East Wales economy.
So Liam has talked about a normal year. Just to give you a sense of what we were doing this time over a year ago when Boris Johnson announced on the 16th of March that people should stop going to theatres. So we had a brand new musical, Milky Peaks, in rehearsal. They were about to start their technical rehearsal, which is when they get to play with the costumes and the set and lighting and sound in the theatre for the first time. We had a co-production with the Donmar Warehouse on the climate emergency was going into rehearsals in a week's time, and the world premiere of a new play by Alan Harris, For the Grace of You Go I, was also about to go into rehearsals. So we shut all of that down. We cancelled, obviously, all of our visiting work. And then it's been, in terms of the shows on our stages, a rolling series of cancellations from that point, really, although we're just beginning to get back into the world of planning and programming. But the thing that has been amazing for us during this whole period is the work that has been able to continue, and that's the work that we do with and for our communities. So straight away, all of our workshops that we do with young and old, with those who have special needs or particular difficulties, whether that's dementia or whether that's learning difficulties or one of a myriad of things, all of those went online. We delivered our food stocks to working with various local food banks. We delivered a number of creative packs to people to try and keep them entertained. And we started a programme called Theatre Clwyd yn Hyd, Theatre Clwyd Together, which was little dollops of culture and creativity reaching out to our audiences through dance and music and theatre and spoken word. We became a major blood donation centre for North Wales, and we recently had an email come through from the Wales Blood Service saying that By their estimation, 2,000 lives were saved directly through the blood that's been donated at Theatre Clwyd. And because of the fact that we were able to use our communication channels to kind of further the cause of blood donation, there were 26% new donors during this time.
So that's a little bit about us as an organisation and what we've been up to this last year. We are here to talk about our capital project. A few questions have come through already. We will pick up on those a little later. I'm going to attempt to share my screen. Tamara will confirm that she can see it.
I can see it.
That's brilliant. Okay, so you will all know Theatre Clwyd, I'm sure, and will have visited us lots, and we hope to see lots over the next 12 months. It's a huge building, 10,000 square metres or so, not dissimilar, the frontage across the Clwydian range to that of the National Theatre on the South Bank. We know that because we've got the same architects working on ours that redeveloped the National Theatre a few years ago. We'll be repeating some of the things that we talked about in the consultation in 2019. So do forgive us if you were there and you remember it in great detail. But when this building was opened in 1976, only one part of it from this line east was for the public. The rest of it was a technical education centre. In the 90s, HTV left and Theatre Clwyd's and our operations grew into the whole building. And so it has become misaligned, it's become a bit wonky, and in addition, it's become absolutely exhausted. 45 years on, it's not had any major capital investment. So there's lots of reasons why we need a capital redevelopment plan, and we'll talk about a few of those. But right back at the beginning, when Tamara and I started on this journey, which was funded by Arts Council of Wales, Steve Tompkins from Howth and Tompkins Architects, who was appointed to lead on this with us, said, you really do need to ask your communities what it is they would like. So our first consultation back in 2016-17, Tamara, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we sent out an email and we said, what would you put in a treasure chest? What would you put in the bin? And what is your one wish? And in the way of emails, we thought, well, maybe a few people will respond. And we sent it out at 4:30 on a Friday. Within the first hour, we'd had over 750 responses. And within the 2 weeks that survey was up, we had, I think, 4,000, was it?
I think 4,500, yeah.
4,500. And that confirmed, as though we need confirmation, that Theatre Clwyd isn't made out of bricks and mortar anymore. It's made out of people's memories and moments in the building. There was a really beautiful moment when we started, when we took down the 90s casings, the big casings that were on the pillars in the bar, because they were just taking up a bit too much room. And underneath we found the original 70s tiles, and we put up posters and said, does anyone remember these? And put a stack of post-it notes and some pens. And one of the first post-it notes to go up said, I remember leaning against these tiles in the hot summer of 1976, drinking a pint the night I first met my man. So that response, the enormity and the wealth of those responses proved to us a couple of things. It proved to us that we need to do everything we can to ensure that this building survives and thrives into the future. And it proved to us wonderfully that almost everything we had said in the original brief for the architects were also the feelings held by all of you, our community, whose building it truly is. So we've got what are they called? A word map? No.
Word clouds, I think.
Word cloud.
Yes, absolutely. So these are the questions we asked. The first was, what would it be? What about the building would you like to throw in the bin? The bigger the word in these word clouds, the more it was mentioned. It doesn't give you the context. We haven't got time to go through 4,500 responses. The tunnel was mentioned a lot, the car park, the feeling of those places more than the functionality. Just looking over in that corner on its own, nothing. And I think that was a really key thing that we still hold on to even at this advanced point in the design process. And very specifically talking about the theatre spaces. They are brilliant theatre spaces, aren't they? Both the Anthony Hopkins and the Emlyn Williams Theatre. And whilst we will improve and upgrade the infrastructure, the seating, the comforts, actually the theatres work. You can hear everything, you can see everything. They have a collective feel to them as spaces, which, as Tamara said a few times, it doesn't matter how good the design team are, doesn't matter whether they're world-class architects and theatre technicians, you cannot easily create a theatre space that truly works. So we don't really mess with those. The next question was?
What would you put in a treasure chest? The view. Yeah, I mean, why would we not do everything we can to make the most of our incredible views? The theatre, Liam's spoken about that. Our theatres work. We're not going to mess with them. We're going to update them a bit, and we're going to make sure the seats aren't falling apart, but we're not going to mess with the fundamentals of them. The bar, I kind of parking, building. The things I love about this is that although theatre is really big there, the thing that's really important to us as a company is that we're more than a theatre. We're for lots of different art forms, but we're also for people who aren't interested in the arts, people who just want to come and have a drink or a coffee or do baby massage on the top floor, or like my kids do, run down the art gallery because it's a really good space to run. So yeah, there's a wonderful collection of words here that are to do with arts and also nothing to do with the arts.
And then the final question we asked back in that 2017 consultation was, what one wish do you have for the building? There's some interesting mentions here. Restaurant was really interesting. So when arts councils fund this kind of exploration into a redevelopment, they are looking for more financial resilience, usually, from arts organisations. And we had for a while said we really want a restaurant that matches, real quality, an environment that's really welcoming, in the same way that our theatres are, actually, offering really world-class environments to enjoy your time and make the most of the views. And it was really reassuring to hear 4,500 people come back to us and say, we'd really like a better restaurant. So all of this, as Tamara said, informed and underpinned really our design principles, which this is really, really wonderful, going back and putting this presentation together for you this evening to check that we're still delivering at this later stage.
We won't go through these in detail, but very briefly, flow. So at the moment, because it was designed as two separate kind of buildings, two separate organizations, the building is not a place that flows. And we want to make sure that you can see through into the different spaces and that you can see some of the theatre making and all of that kind of stuff. Feeling, we just want it to feel great, basically. Accessibility is really, really important to us, that every single person in our community, whatever their needs, can get in, can get around it. Sustainability, that's both in a business sense, but also, and this is absolutely at the heart of every decision that we're making, sustainability in terms of the environment, because climate crisis is the greatest crisis facing us in the world, and we want to do our bit to ensure that future generations have a space to enjoy. Where we are, so celebrating that amazing view, but also celebrating the fact that we are in Wales, that we are Clwyd, that we're a gateway, our community. So you can see the list there, all the different things that we do with, for, by our community. Theatre making, we are a world-class theatre, and we want to make sure that we're still making the stuff. So that's a workshop where we build the sets, costume, wardrobe where we make the costumes, props making, scenic art, also rehearsal rooms that are fit for purpose. And then finally, that we're a place that people want to come and make stuff, so that visiting artists want to come so that our staff feel happy about coming to work. It sounds like we want the world. We actually do. We want the moon on a stick, and we think we can deliver it. And I'm really aware that they're shouting children, so Liam, take over.
Is that the dinosaur? Awesome timing. Shall I take over for a bit whilst the dinosaur just gets ready for bed? Fantastic. Let's just remind ourselves of the site on which Theatre Clwyd sits, because it's quite unusual for a theatre to not be landlocked, to not be in an urban centre. This is the Theatre Clwyd complex. You can see the road going across here, and this is where the multi-storey car park is, and the main entrance in here. Down here is the disused library. It's now a food bank, likely at some point to be demolished. Nestled in the trees is the original use for this park land, I guess, Llywelyn Hall, which is listed alongside our building. We have grade 2 listing, which is a very good thing. We pushed for it very hard in 2018 because it had been floating around for a while. And it felt important to us we had listing before we went through the major design process for a capital project. And the wonderful thing about the Cadw do the listings in Wales, it is listed for its use. It is listed specifically for the Anthony Hopkins Theatre and specifically for the paint frame and workshop at the back of the theatre, because both are unique for their time, for their quality, and actually rarity when it comes to the paint frame. Here we have the law courts. That land is owned by the Crown, so that is likely to stay. And then this is a little bit out of date now, isn't it? So you can just see where my cursor is lining. These bits of County Hall don't exist anymore. It's these two bits actually that have been knocked down, which have improved the views on this side of Theatre Clwyd. There's a few reasons we show this picture. One, because look at the greenery. Look at that unique opportunity. When Tamara talks about wanting the moon on the stick, wanting the world, one of the key drivers for this is to ensure we are a truly green and sustainable theatre building. We really lead the way. And this is our inspiration, all of that greenery around. It is also worth saying that there are plans for some sort of housing to be built on this site. That's just going into development and consultation by Flintshire County Council. So it is worth mentioning that. We punch in on the site a little bit more. Tamara?
Yeah, dinosaurs quieting down now.
Really?
For the moment. Yeah, so you can see more clearly here the enormity of the building, as we spoke about before. Also its relationship to the view. So you can see that top of the car park there where you look out across the hills. And as Liam said, the green all around.
So these are, we showed these in the consultation in 2019. So these are early sketches, aren't they, Tamara, from Steve Tompkins, the architect, just about what we might, the really, really early stages of what it was we were looking to achieve. And this one was very much looking at the relationship between inside and outside Theatre Clwyd. We have an astonishing location, but actually when you're inside, you don't get much contact with it, much relationship with it. And when you're outside, you don't really get much of a view in. It's quite fortress-like. So this was Steve's early sketches about, well, what if the through road didn't exist? What if this was almost an extension of Theatre Clwyd, if this was a real a community-focused, a civic space that really made the most of those views and that arrival moment. This is the next stage in that thinking, isn't it, Tamara?
Yeah, so as you can see, this is just beginning to look at how different outdoor spaces might be used. We've moved on quite away from this, but we've moved on away, not away. We've moved on from this, but the elements are all the same. So spaces outside just to be, a vegetable garden, a kitchen garden, quiet spaces, a outdoor play both for older kids and for younger ones, and then at the side of the building, which hasn't changed its location, a sensory garden for health and well-being. Therapeutic healing gardens are becoming more and more common kind of 500 years after they first became really popular. And so we want to make sure that, in the same way as we're making sure within the building that there are lots of spaces that are multi-purpose, but also spaces specifically for specific needs, we want to make sure that the same is true outside.
Again, this is something we showed at the last consultation in 2019, and just showing some of the process really that we've been through. As we've said, one of the main things that the building needed, apart from the fact that it is falling apart, and that in 2010 there was a condition survey saying this building is nearing its end of life. And whilst the team here have patched it up as best they can, supported by Flintshire County Council, the mechanics, the engineering of the building is shot, and it all needs replacing. Aside from that, and the use of the building, making sure it's fit for purpose for our communities and the work that we now do as an organisation, it's also about rebalancing the building. And very quickly it became apparent in Howard Tompkins' thinking that it needed some sort of modest extension to help recenter the building. So these are different iterations of an extended foyer space without a canopy. It gets very, very hot. We've experienced it with the kind of early spring low sunshine, with a canopy that protects it, but counterlevered, far too expensive and complicated, it turns out. Ones with terraces, the length of the front, one with no terrace, and you can see that the canopy has disappeared. Then a canopy that comes further out and with different views of how the structure might support it. So this just gives you a bit of an idea of the process that we've been on. And then this is where we left you in 2019. This is what went in for planning in 2019. And the reason that we're doing these consultation sessions, to answer your questions, there's another dinosaur, perfect, to answer your questions and take on your views, is because we've resubmitted planning. We are delayed a little because of our funding with the pandemic, but actually it's given us the time to revisit and resubmit our planning, and mainly just about the external. So we won't talk about all of everything kind of surrounding it so much. The big changes have been around the foyer space. So what got submitted in 2019 was this extension with a terrace out to the side, but with a fully wooden structure, with lots of supporting, almost kind of Colosseum-like pillars to support it. So that's where we were. And this is where we've got to now, Tamara.
And where we've got to now is has come about for several reasons. So the architects and all of the design team have looked really closely at what the different kind of sustainability levels are of wood and steel. They've looked at the building as a whole and exactly what would kind of both complement it and I might get you to take over in a minute, and stand out, and also how we can really exploit those views. So you'll notice that what steel allows us to do, this is the red there is the steel, the oxidized steel there in the front. What that allows us to do is have fewer pillars and have them thinner, so that we get more of those views out, and when you're standing outside, more of those views in. So the terrace has remained. We've still got that terrace just round to the front and curving around the side of the building, and the essential elements have remained the same. So it's a canopy which provides shelter, which means that we don't have to cool the building down when the sun is shining through those big windows, and it's supported by those pillars.
You might notice from the previous one, there aren't solar panels shown on this roof. It's because they're not going in for planning. They're put elsewhere that you can't see. We do still have solar panels, and you can see some of the thinking, although not all of this forms part of this full redevelopment. But how from the previous version everything was square relating to the building, well, actually everything kind of being softened and it being more curves, and a lot of planting is really important to us. You can see where we're starting to suggest there might be seed and planting on the roof, and growing up the walls, different parts of the theatre, a few different vantage points. You can see, as Tamara said, how it just opens up the fact that there's fewer pillars really opens up that view. And it's worth saying that we will start to amble inside. All of these, of course, are computer renders. We start to put Steve's, the architect's, drawings on top of them to give them a bit of life. But everything you see, this is not the dog.
This dog is not the
dog. There may
dog.
be a dog, but it's not the dog.
This pram is not the pram. These flowers not the flowers. When we go inside, the furniture is not the furniture. The lighting is not the lighting. All of those things are representative of the fact that we know there will be furniture and we know there will be lighting, and we put them in there to give a sense of how the spaces might be used. But please don't think that's exactly how it's going to look. Just as proof of what a brilliant team we have at Theatre Clwyd, I just got a really sweet message from Nathan saying, "Don't worry about the dinosaurs." Thanks, Nate.
That's very good. That's very good. And Nathan, very dedicated for watching on an evening off. Well done. So just to go back to this, you'll see that there is a proposed turning circle for drop-offs really close to the entrance, and there will be suitable access from the car park. The car park is remaining as it is for a period of time, and then on the same location but updated. We're currently in discussions with Flintshire County Council about how to achieve that. It's worth saying that the main entrance to the building is on the side. Anybody who visits us regularly all year round will know the prevailing wind comes in from the southwest, and the lobby, which is set, the current lobby, which is set back from here, as you go in on a day of strong winds, it's really quite dangerous with the front doors. So it is offset to the right so that we protect ourselves from the prevailing winds. However,
on sunny days, every single door can open up. So when the weather is good, the building becomes kind of completely porous in that sense, and has that flow that we've talked about.
Again, just a few different vantage points.
Sorry, what you're getting a really good impression of here as well is where we will be growing up the walls as well to protect the walls, to offer more insulation. And also Steve Tompkins, our architect, talks really beautifully about allowing the hillside to spill onto the building, making those lines between building and landscape less defined.
And you can see here the kind of view into the Clwyd room, which is quite restricted. You don't really get that at the moment, although these are the position of the existing windows. And again, just that kind of view into that terrace, which is undercover both for rain and as a sun canopy, so you can enjoy it in nearly all weathers. And again, just a few different views. Now we're going to start going into versions where Steve has started to draw and put colour and life into the kind of the computer rendered images. And it's the reason that he's done this. He doesn't always do it on all of his projects, but because one of the key areas, key briefing areas, is around playfulness and fun. We are a theatre. We are a place of joy. Our mission is to make the world a happier place one moment at a time. And Steve is just trying to start almost putting a festival feel on top of things, isn't he, Tamara?
So look, colour.
You're head indoors now.
Yeah, so this is when you start to get a sense of Steve's sketches. So as we head indoors, this is on the ground floor. I say that, there you go. So this is as though you've just come in through those doors at the side, and you're looking towards the Clwyd room at the far end there. That's the doors to the Clwyd room. On your right, you've got the reception welcome desk. Just beyond that, between that and the Clwyd room, is what will be a kind of village shop. So some everyday things and some crafty things and artsy things, just as we have now. To the left, there'll be a seating area, because in the shop there'll also be coffee and cakes and grab and go sandwiches. On the right, you can see the staircase. So this is a new staircase. It isn't new in terms of the previous consultation, but new compared to the building as it is now, that takes you up onto the next floor.
And here you can just see the reception desk, the area for box office. So this is as if you've just turned right on yourself. You're looking up those stairs onto the next floor, and you're looking down towards what will be a play area. Sam has just walked down the office, the corridor, and turned my lights on. It's obviously too dark on the screen.
I haven't got my self view on. Am I all right?
You're perfect tomorrow. In every single way. So this is looking down to what will be a set of health and wellbeing suites. For any of you that know a lot about our work, Tamara mentioned some of the things that we do. We do a lot of work with the NHS Health Board in North Wales. They refer people with early onset memory loss, with mental health challenges, with Parkinson's, to work with our creative team. We also have a lot of referral from social services, so dedicated spaces that can be environmentally controlled, they can be quiet, they can be calm, and they also have an outdoor space, which Tamara mentioned earlier. And then further through beyond there will be a dedicated space for play for young families. Tamara will often talk about how it will be akin to Hobbiton or Narnia.
Yeah, it's kind of a cross between, in my mind, it's kind of a cross between Hobbiton and Narnia. Essentially, it's not a soft play area. It's a world where play can happen. And then on the right as well, you can see those two yellow boxes, may or may not be yellow, but that's two lifts that work. Amazing. They're going to go up and they're going to go down, and they're going to do it in a timely fashion, and it's going to be brilliant.
That's specifically for anybody who's used the current Theatre Fluid lift. It's also worth saying, actually, the design has really moved on in the last 12 months in response to the pandemic. So we'll talk about funding, but Welsh Government are one of the main funder of the project as conceived. And of course, as the pandemic struck, they really wanted to make sure that we were considering how the building responded to that. So there was a question. Everybody talks about value engineering, we've learned, haven't we, Tamara?
Yeah, that means how can we make things cheaper?
Yeah, or how can we just cut things, but they say value engineering in construction. And the lifts, having two lifts was on there, but actually, because of the pandemic, actually, it's a very good reason to have two, let alone the fact that outside of pandemic, it would just be far better for all of us. So this is at the far end. So you've got your back to the Clwyd room and you're looking back down to the entrance where we've just been standing. So these are all the doors that on a beautiful sunny day, which we would have had these open all of this last week, wouldn't we? Can spill out. And this is this village shop that Tamara's talked about and the reception desk from the other point of view. It's also worth saying, you'll see lots of different sketches about how lighting might work. Again, it's obviously sketches at the moment, but what we're looking at achieving with Steve Tompkins and the design team is lighting that's really flexible and can give us different height moments, can be adjustable over time, so that if we change a space, because of course what we're doing is not just designing a space for Tamara and I to enjoy and for all of you to enjoy and all of the current team, but also for people in 10, 20, 25 years time. So we can't predetermine everything on their behalf. I think we might go upstairs again now. Yeah.
So this is, you can see on just on the left there, the staircase that you will have just come up. Ahead of that, directly ahead of that, is the bar. Can't miss it. It curves round the corner of what is at the moment the entrance to the gallery. On the right, you can see another staircase there that's a kind of slightly more discreet staircase going up to the third floor, which is a slightly kind of quieter space, I guess. And then between the bar and the staircase, you're looking through to what will still be the gallery. Over to the left, you can see those big windows looking out on the view. And above that, another window, which will be the green room space for our company, for staff, for visiting artists. At the moment, one of the things the building is really lacking is a space where we can all come together and break bread and drink tea. And if you want to locate yourself, you can see just here on the left, the tiles of the original building. Liam's looking at me like, what are you talking about?
You need to say the tiles first.
Say the keyword. Yeah, no, sorry. The tiles, so that's the line of the original building. So everything forward of that is the addition.
There was a question, just picking up on answering one of the questions that's come through already about public art. There will be an extensive public art programme, and we've just had this week the first meeting of our steering group for public art. So we've got a number of experts from partner organisations like National Museums of Wales and Glyndŵr University, and members of our community, both from some of our youth programmes and our elders programmes, who will help us go through a commissioning process to choose artists. In some of these pictures, we're suggesting areas where there might be opportunities for public art. Behind the bar, this kind of colourful, almost suggestion of something mosaic or otherwise light-based. Behind the bar, you can see something up there next to the green room that we think might be an opportunity. We'll try and point those out as we go through these pictures. This is a vantage point as if you've just turned round to your left and you're looking out to the view, and you can see some of just the suggestion of the Clwyd Range and Molfamau, and again that idea of that double height space, how we might lower it in some places with some lighting. And you can see up to the left here, that's that top floor, that third floor, and a connection with both spaces. At the moment, if you're on the top floor, you really don't have a connection with the lower ground floor.
And it's worth saying that we're also looking for all the different spaces in the building where we might be able to reuse things that might have to be replaced elsewhere. So, for example, we have a beautiful old flying system, a hemp flying system in the Anthony Hopkins Theatre. It needs to be replaced for health and safety and for all of our sakes. But we want to use some elements, some of the ropes from that flying system front of house, so that we're always acknowledging the history of the building as well as its future. This is standing with your backs to the windows, looking into the body of that space. And above, you can see that in that double height space, you can see the third floor, which is that kind of quieter public area that I talked about, and curves right round to the right. And then on the left, one of those opportunities, that yellow blob, one of those opportunities for public art that Liam spoke about.
And again, just to point out where the old and the new fit together. So we've got the 70s tiles that match the pillars in the bar currently that Tamara was talking about earlier. You've got the steel that's there structurally to support the building as it currently is. And then you've got this wooden glulam structure for this new extension. And it's beautifully eclectic, isn't it? We kind of like the fact that it's not even, it's got lots of different textures.
It feels like a theatre. I think I hadn't thought of that before until I was looking at it just now. It feels the way a theatre does, that it's made up of lots of different bits and patches over the years, and and the messiness of it is beautiful, or artistic quality of it, if you don't want to use the word messy. Sorry, Liam, just go back one. The other thing we haven't mentioned is that there is a skylight, a kind of pop-up roof light just along the line of the old and new building, which brings light down into the center of it.
Yeah, and kind of aligns with that new staircase. So it's kind of throwing light right through down onto the ground floor. So this is up on that top third floor that Tamara's talked about. This is the place where those of you that come to the building regularly will sneak up to and have a quieter moment, be able to connect to all the activity, the hustle and bustle downstairs, have an even more spectacular view. Again, you can just see suggestions of where there may be opportunities for public art. That's the one we've talked about, quite a huge surface area that kind of relates to all of the spaces, and then another one here. And behind here is a meeting room with astonishing views, another place where we can help generate revenue and support our theatrical, cultural and community work.
And then this is just still on that same floor, looking out to the view again. So you've got the green room or the company living room on the right, and then you've got that meeting room that we talked about on the left.
And again on the same floor, but looking back. So this is the stairway that would bring you up to this space. There are beautiful kind of new views and vantage points that have been found across the new design, and this is one that looks out to where County Hall may have been, that kind of new view that's been created, and probably just below there the play area and the health and wellbeing area. And again, that connection down to the main area. And this shows you the roof light in a bit more detail that Tamara was talking about, that kind of throws light from the south down onto that space. We've got a few more things to cover, and then we'll take off the images so that I was going to say so we could see you, but we can't, so you can see us in a bit more detail. But this is where we've got to. Yes, Tamara.
And as we keep going, just a reminder, if you have any questions, do pop them in the box, in the form below the video. And there's also a box in that form for your thoughts on what you've seen, whether that's questions, whether that's, provocations that you have, or whether you just want to tell us that it looks brilliant. That's also okay.
We're not going to go into more internal spaces in the building because it's huge. And not all of them have kind of been rendered in the same way, but it's worth saying that this scheme, as well as updating all of the infrastructure that we've talked about, as well as doing this extension and making the front of house spaces to the same level that the theatre spaces or the work on our stages has occupied over the last 20 years. It also delivers the dedicated health and wellbeing spaces. It also delivers the play spaces for young families. It also delivers places where we can generate income. The Clwyd room is reimagined. The floor is kind of all put on one level, so it's more accessible. It has better access inside outside for weddings and birthdays, how it used to be used when it opened originally. It also gives us more meeting rooms, dedicated spaces for our youth programme, dedicated rehearsal spaces. When they originally built Theatre Clwyd, they did all sorts of amazing things. They never built any rehearsal spaces. Dedicated spaces for our workshop and scenic construction to come back on site, which is located elsewhere. Sorry, Tamara, I'll cut over you then.
No, and a dedicated walkway to view all of that work. So a public viewing walkway so that you can look out over the workshop and over the paint frame and see what's going on.
And then the other key thing that we mentioned that we just wanted to touch upon again is, this is just a sketch to remind us really to talk about it, but our green credentials on this project.
We had a really amazing moment just a few weeks ago when we had it confirmed that at the point of reopening, the building will be able to be carbon neutral. And that's thanks to all of us really pushing and pushing and pushing to ensure that every time we're faced with a decision about whether we do the thing that is most sustainable for the environment and costs a bit more, or whether we do a thing that's a bit less sustainable but costs less, we've kept saying, no, we need to take the decision that will in the end not only save the building money, but also potentially help save the planet.
So the things that have helped us achieve that is thermal insulation, actually the biggest one. You know, the really, really visible and let's say sexy renewable energies like wind power actually don't make you as sustainable as things like thermal energy. We do solar panels, we harvest our own rainwater, we have no gas in the building whatsoever, so we use air source heat pumps. All of these things will help us not only be a carbon neutral building, but it will enable us to be a carbon neutral operation in the future as well. Just to let you know that this is a 2-year program, construction program. We're currently hoping to start around about this time next year on site, but we will.
This is the point at which we have always said we will never close, because that would be disastrous. We would hate for there to be a moment when we closed and people had to stop coming up the hill. And of course, now we're saying that having been closed for a bit, but because of the pandemic, it's even more important to us that we don't close our doors again for the capital redevelopment. So we will stay open all the way through, and we will find various creative and joyous ways to keep bringing you work on the stage, and also give you spaces to, have a drink and all of that stuff. So we're going to have a phased approach to the work. The Anthony Hopkins Theatre will stay open when the work begins, and there will also be a pop-up space, not exactly this one, but not dissimilar to this one. This was the Roundabout Theatre. So there will be a pop-up theatre just on the grass to the right of the building as you look at it, which will be our second theatre space. I don't know if, Liam, have you frozen? This is where technology lets us down. Oh, he's gone. Oh, it's just me. I can tell because I can see myself now. So although we won't have a lot of the additional stuff, we will have those two theatre spaces, and we'll have a bar space. We'll have front of house. We'll have. We're in the process of programming various bits of work that spill out from our hillside as well, using different spaces in our communities. And all of our community work, our weekly workshops, our companies, those will all continue. I've just had a message from Liam that he is walking down the corridor, which I assume means he's walking down the corridor towards Sam so that he can jump in on that computer. But I'm also looking to see if there are any other messages, because I'm pretty sure, although I don't have the presentation in front of me because Liam was sharing his screen, that we'd reached the end of it. There is a question here that's about, so the first question we had was to do with commissioning artists in Wales. So we've spoken about that. Yes, we will be. And is there a way we could apply? Yes, it will be a public call out, and we will send that out on as many channels as we can. So of course, keep an eye on our own social media, but we'll also be trying to spread the word as far and wide as we can. And then there's another question here about whether it will be a space for, whether there will be a space for community projects. The straightforward answer is yes. Hey you, specifically, Liam talked about the dedicated spaces for health and well-being, and the spaces for young people, and the spaces for the Clwyd Room as a space for events and for all of those things. It will still as well be a space where community groups can use the theatres as they do now. So that's absolutely still a part of our mission. Liam, I didn't know which picture was next.
Well, nor do I really. Sorry, everybody. My internet decided we've got about 4 or 5 different internet connections here, so I had to jump onto a different one. Tamara was talking just about us not closing the building before I so rudely got kicked out of this session. We've got 2 main phases to our construction program. Kia, who are our current contractor to deliver this. This just shows the site. So in our first phase, we plan to, and this is a little out of date because we're not doing it all in completely the same way as this outlines, but we close off the majority of the building as highlighted here and give it to Kia, the construction, but we keep the Anthony Hopkins Theatre. We put temporary facilities, so kind of a hard-edged marquee and dome we're looking at the moment, and another pop-up theatre space. So in the previous picture, we showed you the Roundabout. We did 3 years of the Roundabout as pop-up space. So all of this will be bar, second theatre space, toilets, all of the facilities that will serve both.
And it's important to say that although pedestrian access for many of us will be from the front there, as it is at the moment, there will also be a drop-off point for those with accessibility needs around the back of there. So that will be closer.
And then the current plan is to then hand over the Anthony Hopkins Theatre to the construction team. We will keep all the temporary facilities and the pop-up theatre space, and we won't tell you exactly what that theatre space is at the moment. We've changed our plans from when we spoke to you in 2019. But we will also, our new workshop extension at the back won't be fitted up as a scenic construction workshop initially, but it will be a temporary theatre. We're currently thinking of what kind of activity might happen in there, whether it's candlelit season or something like that. But it will mean that we've still got 2 theatre spaces. And then 2 years after starting, we will reopen the theatre again. Just a little bit on funding. Sorry, Tamara, are you going to jump in?
I was going to jump in on that. So Arts Council of Wales have, as you can see, have committed 1.012 million towards the design and development. Flintshire County Council allocated 330,000 towards that same bit of the process that we're in now. And Arts Council of Wales have ring-fenced another 5 million, which, depending gateway reviews, means they'll give it to us if we keep doing well at various points. Flintshire County Council have earmarked 1 million pending further agreements, kind of same thing really. And Welsh Government committed at just after the pandemic had begun, actually, we got confirmation from them that they were going to go ahead with committing £3 million towards this stage that we're in now, with another £25 million in review. It's an amazing and powerful vote of confidence from the government. It's a recognition of the work that we do, of the importance of theatre fluid in this particular area, and its importance to the cultural life and the health and well-being of Wales as a whole. That leaves us with a fundraising target of £4 million that we will need to raise from trusts and foundations and from individuals. And we've just had a reminder, Liam, that we've run over time.
Of course, we've run over time. It's you and I speaking together about something we're very passionate about and spend a lot of time trying to deliver. It's worth saying it is a big project. You can see there from the funding requirements, it does cost an awful lot of money. Our impact culturally in the community is well documented, and our funders really support that. I mean, if you also look at the economics around it, we would pay that back within 3 to 4 years just within the local economy. During this current run into the election in Wales, we are mentioned in the Welsh Labour manifesto, and we would expect to see them involved in some sort of government.
I'm going to turn to the questions.
Good idea.
How does the proposed new North East Wales Archives building fit in with the wider landscape? It does. It will be to the right of our building if it continues as proposed. We're in conversation with them. We've got a really good dialogue going between the two organisations, and they're on a different timescale, so they won't be building at exactly the same time, and we. Everything that we've shown you allows for that project.
Yeah, just to the east of the building. We've been working with them really closely on their Heritage Lottery Fund application, which is currently in. So it would be a very good partnership to happen. Just as a reminder, if you do have any questions, now's the time to drop them in the question box at the bottom.
Will the construction phase mean the potential for more off-site performances like Mould Riots? Even if we weren't doing a capital redevelopment, we think that kind of work is really important, and we're really committed to it. The capital redevelopment will mean that we will have to do fewer productions ourselves. I'm smiling because it's a constant battle between our ambition and our sensible heads. But yeah, we will. We haven't confirmed anything yet, but we will do productions in other spaces as well. If I remember
right, thank you, Carol. You're saying that if you remember rightly, back in the day, Emlyn Williams Theatre was originally a rehearsal room, and then it was realised what a great theatre space it was, so it was named the studio. I mean, it's an extraordinary theatre space, isn't it? So thank you for mentioning that, Carol.
It would also have been a crazy rehearsal room. What a huge rehearsal room. Looks lush. Thank you. We think so too. Does anyone else have any questions before we let everyone get on with their evening?
It's worth saying, if you have any questions after this point, you can ask them. So I think there's an email on the pages relating to the capital redevelopment on our website. And if you have any comments or thoughts or inputs, some of you can go and read the hundreds and hundreds of pages currently on the planning website as well if you wanted. Please do let us know.
And the other thing that we will want, and Sam has said to remind you that there is a we'll do this all again on Friday morning, this Friday, if there's anyone you know who would be interested to hear this, or if you just want to come again. I can't imagine you want to come again. But the other thing that we will be asking you for in the near future is we're not going to be closing the building, so it's not a kind of closure point, but we are going to be saying goodbye to parts of the building and to parts of the building in the kind of way that they are now, and there'll be a moment for that at the beginning of next year, and we're going to want you there, but we're also going to want your memories and memories of particular moments, particular shows, but also times in the bar or times in the Clwyd room, stuff that you've done in the building. So please look out for that, and please do tell us all about what Theatr Clwyd means to you when that moment happens. Thank you, diolch yn fawr, so much for being with us this evening and for putting up with the dinosaurs.
And the dodgy internet. We look forward to seeing you all back in the building. Do look out, we'll be announcing a new outdoor season, online work, and hopefully indoor season from June, July onwards. So we look forward to seeing you all, and do get in touch if you have any more thoughts or comments on the capital project.
Nasta.